Hey YouTube. Yep. I got an emergency call just before I went to download a guy, Chris, a fellow Mano warrior. His one of his friends there was a fire in a block of flats in Paisley, and her flat didn't actually go on fire, but the fire brigade were in, so everything gets soaked, and then a couple of days later, or a week later, she was allowed in after signing a disclaimer if the roof fell on her. She wouldn't sue, and all she could grab from the house were 3 guitars and some books or something like that. Everything else was just water damaged. So basically I rushed over Paisley and got them, and just stripped them down that night. And I had this Floyd Rose right down to individual parts. This is quite a new guitar. There's a wee bit of tarnishing on the actual block, but everything else is clean. Got it in time. So I suppose here I've stuck the pickups back in again. Basically had the whole thing down to components, stripped it, did clean the frets and all that anyway, while I was there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a Floyd Rose from scratch. So because the posts were out, the Floyd Rose is being completely in bits, so it's all random. I don't know how this. I'll probably only do the bit where I set up the floating bit. I'll do the intonation in another video, so it's not too long. So just to start off, I've got my straight edge, which is actually just a piece of aluminium cross section, and I set it so that roughly it's kind of about the right height when you sit it on the nut and on the bridge. That way, there's a bit of a gap. So I mean, this is by no means a final adjustment, but it's ballpark. I did the same on both sides to get the posts at the right height. And now I'm going to stick strings on it. I'm going to do it the fancy way and put them in backwards. I don't think I've ever seen that before. I certainly wasn't really aware of it until, I don't know. I didn't know. There was a time I didn't know about it. I've been aware about it for a couple of years. So what you do is you're simulating locking tuners. Doesn't really make any difference. What you do is you stick the whole string through the tuner. It just looks cool. I don't know. The thing about the Floyd Rose is you're cutting the ends off anyway, which is annoying. I wish there was some other way. It's the downside of a Floyd Rose is I've not even put the springs in the back. I just want to have one string on it, so I've got something to kind of hold it. So I'm going to cut this just beyond where the wee block is, right there, and just hope I don't make a mess of this. As usual, doing this without a safety net. So I'm going to bend the end of this with the other pliers, which I was using just 2 minutes ago, but have now gone missing. Where are the yellow and red pliers? What was I using them for? Maybe if I remember what I was using them for, I'll be able to work my way back to that. So at the end of the string, I'm just going to put a wee 90-degree kink on it, so it sits into the wee hole where the wee stupid block thing is. Like so, and I'm going to stick it in this wee hole. It's not really a hole, there's a wee metal block that kind of holds the string. This one's always going to be fidgety because it's the first one and the bridge isn't actually screwed down yet. So it just goes in there like that, and then the Allen key, which is that one. Nope. The block is not sitting level. This is my special tool. It's an old dart, which is surprisingly useful for poking things. Which, whether it's not a glamorous part of working on guitars, but poking things with a dart is a handy thing. I'm not really happy with the way that's going in. What's going on? It looks alright. Why is it not? That's just going there like that. Thing with this is the one I can actually get at because the bridge isn't even stuck in yet. I wonder if actually I could put more strings on at this stage. The block doesn't look to be sitting particularly super straight, but a bit too much on it. I wanted it to be too much rather than not enough. Can always trim it down later. I always want to put some tension on it so I can put springs on the back and it doesn't just fall off all the time. Yeah, that looks about right. Right, now I'm going to stick these springs in the back. I might take that out first. And then once I've got these springs on, I'm going to totally tighten them up so that it holds the bridge back, and then I'm going to wedge it out with something. I've normally got a wee fret tool thing that's about the right size. So now I'm going to batter in these. I haven't actually touched these screws, so these might actually be set to where it was, but I don't know what kind of strings were on it before. They were that rusty, I just cut them off. So it might not be, tension wise it might not be badly set. I'm tempted just to actually just try stringing it up and see if it works as it is. Come on. Oh. Why have you attached yourself on there like that? There you go. These are also really handy pliers. I got, they were 50p in B&Q about 20 years ago, just because who really wants bent nose ones? But I mean, they are utterly useful. Number 3 might be able to do with my fingers, because I can actually get my fingers around it. Right. So now it should at least be sitting in the, and I'm going to put the bar back in again, so I've got something to hold it straight with. And then what I'm going to do, I put all these kind of in the middle of the travel so they can all go in a wee bit and out a wee bit, the fine tuners. Just so they're in the middle. Nothing more annoying than when you set it up and plug it in, and then you go, oh, I just want to take a wee bit sharper, and the screws are, so you want these kind of in the middle. And then I just need something to sit in below that and wedge it. See, I know I've been using, it was there, like a wee fret rocker, which seems to do the job most of the time. It just sits in there like that, and it, well, also now the bridge is sitting pretty much level. Scott always said if you use playing cards, you can vary the thickness infinitesimally, but that just seems to work and gets most of the way there. Yep, so yeah, just battering on strings there now. How long has this video been so far? 7 minutes, that's not too bad. Got one string on, 7 minutes. Now we'll start the great process of losing things that I had in my hand 2 seconds ago. That was about right, the amount I cut off that string. There is a tendency to always err on the side of safety though. You know, I would rather have 5mm or even 10mm too much string than not enough string, than half a millimetre not enough. So basically what I'm doing is I'm running it along to there we go. I'm basically going to cut it kind of here at the end of the block. That gives me enough room to put the wee kink on it and then stick it behind the block, so kind of right about there at the edge of the saddle. So if I just go badoom and then get my snips out, and again I'm going to put the wee kink at the end. It doesn't really need it. It might not actually even be a good idea to do it, but I've done it now the first two. And then just unscrew that wee daft block, which is really annoying and I always end up pure hating. That's the thing. That's the thing that about like Floyd roses is they're not so bad now. I mean, this isn't a premium. This isn't an expensive guitar. So, I mean, that Washburn Hawk that I've sold, but that guy hasn't actually contacted me to come and pick it up yet. Has like a £300 Scholler on it. That's really good, obviously, but there's an awful lot of wee bits in here, and everyone has to be right. So, you know, it's like if you compare it to like a Telecaster bridge, which is just basically a bent piece of metal with 3 saddles on it, it's like there's not an awful lot to it. I can't believe I said it. Yeah. My standing there for opening these packets. I've got a pickup stuck to the side of my stereo, which I normally stick it to. It's a magnet. What I might actually do with this is, once I've put the strings on, this could be part 1, and then I could put it up, and then I'll just record part 2, because I'm going to do it anyway. I've got a lot of guitars to get through. I've got a few hanging up on the wall up there, which I have my own. But kind of, after download, I've been ill for a week. I never really did anything functional. I think, but partly just probably to do with the heat. It's like, it's Scottish, I'm not good in the heat. I'm not sure I didn't have like some sort of heat stroke when I was actually at download. So I was over at Jen's yesterday with some of the guitars I've actually just got back. Getting what were originally called graffiti casters. I don't know if graffiti casters really cuts it in. The J-Pax guitars. There's now 19 of them, and she's just bought a white Telecaster to do as well. So that's the 20th one. I can't remember. I'm sure there was another one that was sitting there. She's trying to sell a Westfield Gold Top Les Paul, which is a very nice guitar. But it says Westfield on it, so people, I'm not a Westfield, I can buy an Epiphone for that. Yes, you can buy an Epiphone. It's not as good as the Westfield, but it doesn't say Epiphone on it. So that's feasibly next week when I go over, there will be 21. We had a wee factory thing going where I was kind of wiring and assembling. Scott was sort of tuning and setting up, and Jen was basically filming us and doing other stuff on the Facebook page. But it was quite good. I was ordering Jen about, telling her to, right, here you go, just giving her like, so what can I do? It's like the last couple of minutes what I've done is I've organised all these tuners into the ones that go in this guitar. Here you go, put the tuners in the guitar and such things. Stuff that's relatively easy to do. It's probably quite a good learning course actually. So rather than actually looking up a YouTube video of someone doing it, actually just doing it yourself, but having a couple of people there, basically me and Scott sitting in the same room and going, when something doesn't quite go exactly the way you wanted, you could just go, what, is this right? Am I doing, even though I don't think she was kind of right straight up all the time, but I mean, it's like, sometimes you can be just sitting there going, I feel I'm missing something, and it's something so obvious you missed it. It's like, why is this not working? It's like, oh, I made a mistake in that one. I don't care if there's more wines on it than there should be. Again, much rather have too little than too less. Too more than not enough. The tuner does only have one wind on it. It's just it hadn't fully gone through. The braided bit at the end hadn't selected up. And this actually might work out quite well, because if I do this video and put it out just now, once I put the strings on it, I'll try and tune it and see if it floats. It might be finished in 5 minutes. It's 6 o'clock, so if I can, and we're at a 13-minute video, 13 minutes, take 13 minutes out, yeah, I can do it. I've got another 5 minutes if I can make it, just in case it's set to exactly the right tension, which I don't know. I mean, I don't even know if the guitar played when I got it. The only thing I would say is it's relatively new, so I don't fancy the chances if I hadn't stripped this down and cleaned it, because I mean this will be quite a cheap, it's a Jackson by Floyd Rose, but it works fine, but it won't be. I don't imagine it will take the same abuse like an expensive one will, especially the abuse of somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, over tightening things and generally faffing about with it. It's not going to be as resilient to that. And also 20 years on the road sort of thing, things might start wearing out an awful lot quicker than they do on a £300 one. Because I mean, to be honest, I don't think this is a £300 guitar. Maybe something like that. Jackson are a funny one. They've really, since Fender bought it, they've really made some. Because it shouldn't be Jackson. The cheaper ones should be Epi-Jackson or Squaxon, so that there's a bit more kudos to the brand. Because I mean, I remember when these started coming up for sales. I'd be a Jackson for £100. What? And it looks, to the untrained eye, pretty much just like a really expensive one. Now, well, this is quite a premium one. It's got like a veneer top on it and a carved top and all that. I had one that was shaped like a. It was basically, I think it might even be the same. It was the same body shape, whatever this is. Was it a Dinky or something, or a ML, or I can't remember exactly what they're called. I had one that was a pal in Kilsyth had painted with blood splatters on it, and he'd put a BC Rich neck on it, which was the wrong scale. And I saw him selling. He was trying to sell it for 30 quid or something like that. And I saw it and was like, oh dear. And then I got a phone call from him a couple of weeks later. So I'm going to take this to the bin. Do you want it? Aye. So I put a strap neck on it, and just set it up and made it work. And it was all right. But it's a Jackson, wow! But it was only £120 or £130 new. I think it was a single pickup one. No, the guide filled. It was a double pickup. The guide filled it in. It wasn't a Floyd Rose. It was a strap trim. So a cheaper one, but it could be in the same range as this. I don't know what colour it was before he painted it white with red. Right, so that'll be the end of the video. What I'm going to do right now is tune it and see if it stays in tune, because I mean, it's possible it had 9s on it, and it's possible it was set up, it's possible it didn't have 9s on it, it's possible everything's moved, but it's possible it works. So it may be a wee go home early on a Friday moment coming up. It may not be though. And yes, I'm tuning it sitting on its back, which I shouldn't be doing. I'm just doing it roughly. I think I can feel it lifting. Actually, even if it's not in tune, I don't think I will bother making these 2 videos. It was the right point. I'm to check the intonation. In fact, I can see just by looking at it, the intonation's not right. Aye. Okay, so the intonation's not right. I will need to do that afterwards. I'll just get my special Floyd Rose Adjustomatic tool, which costs 30 quid. I don't have a Floyd Rose Super. There is such a thing. I don't know if it costs 30 quid. So there is a wee ratchet sort of crowbar thing. Oh, we're raising up now. So what I'm going to do is tighten up the screws in the back a good bit. And then I'm going to over tighten them. I don't really want to be over tightened, so that there's too much pressure on it, and then I'll tune it with these claw springs later on. Tune it down. Right, so maybe a completely new problem here, because that's the bridge is now sitting thingy, and the springs are maxed out, and these are only 9s. So I mean, it can't have worked before. No, they're 10s. They're 10s. They're 10s, not 9s. But that's difficult, because what are you meant to do? I mean, I've got to assume that this guitar doesn't work, or the springs were pretty close in. I think I'm going to have to put more springs in it. This involves me going and finding more springs, because as it is, you can see there's the claw there. That's okay. I could maybe get another couple of mil on it to tighten up, but the screws were only sticking out here. Normally they're out here somewhere. So there's your bridge, and if you look at the action height there, it's sitting up the way you want that to be sitting. Ugh. That should be sitting like that. So what my plan was, what I was about to do there, but my plan I've altered a little bit, was I was going to tighten up the back screws so it sat back the way, and I'll just snap that string while I'm doing it because obviously it's too tight. So I want it to sit like that, but have more pressure on it so it's held up by that piece of metal I had in below there. And then what I do is I tune it there so it's sitting all in tune, but it's you know, it's pushing down on the piece of on this, which is wedged down the back, held on. And then what you do is you take this out, the bridge sinks down, and then oh, that's no longer an A, it's now a B. So what you do is you just hit the A string and then untune it with those two claws in the back to bring them out. And as you turn it down, once you if you keep doing that until that goes back to A, all the other strings will be in A as well, and your bridge will be floating. But that's, I need to go and find some springs for it. Because I've gone to 10s, not 9s. But there we go. They were not specified. Rock on. More videos coming. I've got a lot of guitars to do. Catch you all later. Cheers.